like to welcome all of you and wish you a very, very wonderful morning. I'm very glad to welcome you today on behalf of the Friedrich-Ebert-Stiftung to our small conference, Inequality and the 1% is a transformative fiscal policy possible. It's my great pleasure to, first of all, thank our partners, the Mission of Norway and Uruguay, UN Women and UNRISD, to jointly organized our conference today with us. We're very grateful for the collaboration with UNRISD and for the co-sponsorship of the Missions of Norway and Uruguay and UN Women. On the second day of the HLPF, we meet here and discuss the issue of inequality and fiscal policy. The HLPF in 2019 offers an opportunity to assess the levels of progress and deficiencies with regard to the 2030 Agenda and the Sustainable Development Goals. In this coming 8 days, more than 2,000 academics, representatives of trade unions, civil society, governments of the business sector will descend on the UN, and we will hear many interesting reports, analysis, policy briefs, accounts from grassroots, recommendations, etc. There will be a lot of food for thought and a lot to digest, and we will be able to collect new ideas for moving ahead with the implementation of the Agenda 2030. For the first time, the HLPF focuses on the SDG 10, one of the most complex goals, and the one which does not easily fall into the mandate of any of the UN institutions, of one institution, or any advocacy group which solely concentrates on inequality. It's a cross-cutting issue, closely linked to the SDG 8 on economic growth and decent work, as well as on SDG 16 on strong institutions, governance, and peaceful society. In the past, economic inequalities and the role of fiscal policies have not played a very prominent role. This year's HLPF seeks to correct that, or has an opportunity to sort of put strong focus on this issue. We need to focus on how to mobilize the political will to raise the ambition to put the best ideas into practice in a large scale, including all stakeholders, and leaving no one behind. Equality needs to be seen as a driver, not as a trade-off of economic development. And we need to look to find out what equality-enhancing policies look like, share insights and best practices. We need to change the development paradigm and enable a wide distribution of benefits from growth and development. I would just briefly like to mention also the role of multilateral institutions, which have a very important role in promoting and rewarding best practices in progressive fiscal policies. And we need to see how they or how we can support progressive fiscal policies and not merely the issue of national resource mobilization. We need to work towards a new fiscal compact for sustainable development within all of society and all of government approach. For us as FES, the trade unions are one of the core stakeholders, one of the core movers and drivers in this context. They are under threat worldwide, and we need them on our side to fight for an equal society. Let me just very briefly say some words about Friedrich-Ebert-Stiftung. We're the oldest political foundation in Germany. We're publicly funded, a non-profit organization which shares the same political values and beliefs with the oldest party in Germany, the Social Democratic Party, which is over 150 years old. And it was Social Democrats and trade unions who fought for many of the social and economic and human rights and the modern welfare state which we enjoy today. The late Chancellor of the Federal Republic of Germany and Social Democrat and Nobel Peace Prize laureate Willy Brandt was convinced that foreign policy is far too important to leave it to governments alone. It's these kind of understanding of development cooperation and foreign policy which has inspired the Friedrich-Ebert-Stiftung to get involved in development cooperation and foreign policy and to set up a network of offices in more than 100 countries worldwide. And the majority of them is in the global south. Willy Brandt believed in engagement and dialogue and international solidarity. as the chair of the first North-South Commission called Independent Commission for International Development Issues. He sort of published the so-called, later called published Brandt report in 1980, where he called, or where the report called for drastic changes in the global attitudes towards development in the third world. So this is the inspiration and also the sort of underlying understanding of power relations in the world, which led to the opening of the office of the Friedrich-Ebert-Stiftung in New York. And we focus on multilateral development and multilateral institutions and international cooperation in the field of development. And we believe in bringing all stakeholders to the multilateral table, bringing in the perspectives from the global south, and in working towards reshaping the table. For us, the value of solidarity translates into international cooperation and multilateralism. So global warming, migration, and inequality are three pertinent challenges with which the global community will only be able to tackle and transcend if we improve and deepen the levels of international cooperation, and if we strengthen the multilateral system with the United Nations at its core. To achieve the Sustainable Development Goals of the Agenda 2030, we need more policy coherence and international cooperation, and also more ambitions. This event came about in a discussion process, or over the last months, and it originates in a conference which FES Geneva did jointly with UNRISD, I think roughly half a year ago, and which looked at inequality and in all its obstructing effects and addressed questions of power and political will, and looked at building up progressive alliances to drive political and policy changes needed for an equitable, inclusive 21st century equal social compact. So this was one important background, and we at FES in New York also looked at the issue of financing for development on the one hand side, but also on the role of international finance institutions and inequality. So in 2016, jointly with the Development Finance International and New Rules for Global Finance, we convened an intensive dialogue with leading experts on assessing economic inequality, methodological challenges and lack of data on wealth, capital income, the care economy, illicit financial flows, among others. The two-day conference was geared toward the multilateral institutions and their role in designing policies to reduce inequality. As a result of the consultation, global financial impact reports were published and presented at the fall and spring meetings in 2017 and 18. They look at the finance institutions and their relationship to inequality. How is it referenced? How do they define it? What data do they have? What are they doing? And are they tracking what they are doing? So we hope that today's discussion will bring us closer to a progressive fiscal policy which supports economic development and reduces inequality. And I would like to thank all our speakers and our partners at UNRISD for joining us today and discussing this issue. I'm very glad now to hand over the mic and the floor to Ambassador Luise Bermudez, the DPR of the mission of Uruguay.
Thank you very much.